This is From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Each week, Janice shares her wisdom to enlighten, educate, and advance the culture in America today. Janice Pons is a mother, author, and free thinker, and your host for our podcast this evening. Now let's join your host, Janice Pons.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Janice Pons. I am the host on our podcast, From Destruction to Dignity, Clinical Perspective, Spiritual Truths. Listen, we're going to stay on this path we're on. It's clear. We're understanding. And I love doing this podcast. Thank you for your support. It's growing. Oh, my goodness. I can't wait to get the statistics for the full growth for this year, because early on, I was notified that the podcast had grown 1,320% earlier on in 2025. So I'll get some more updated data here in a couple of months. I'm very excited. So we're going to continue this journey. Thank you all for being so supportive, for praying for me, and for supporting me. And I'm going to keep you posted on certain things as we go. So we've got our beautiful flag behind us, which is a great symbol connected to our amazing nation. This seal represents our president and how we're going to keep him covered in prayer, and just the executive branch and the cabinet thereof. I love those 265,900,000 working Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck, barely making ends meet. A lot of them are getting good jobs. I was seeing where ICE is paying great salary, and that big beautiful bill includes some great jobs for people to have. I think the ICE includes paying off your school loan up to $60,000. So anyway, people are having opportunities, and I'm grateful. And we're just believing that things are turning around in our nation. I know they are. So we got a mandate. There was a mandate that was loud and clear based upon the election in 2024. And we have a leader who's strong. He doesn't mind going all the way in. So tonight we're going to examine something that's generated a lot of conversation in our nation. And we're going to talk about the half hasn't been told. That's kind of like an old saying, well, girl, the half ain't been told. That's how the old folks say it. So the half hasn't been told, and all this ties directly into our clinical perspective, which has to do with the rule of law. Let's explore this. There's some dynamics. I'm going to frame some things that we're going to look at together on our podcast, my fellow Americans, my brothers and sisters. Remember, we're going somewhere, and it's expecting us when we get there. I want you to come and go with me. I invite you. Someone who's well respected in our nation is a gentleman called Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino. As the deputy director of the FBI, when I heard him say these words, it really got my attention. This is what he said. He said, "We cannot run a republic like this." When he had been 5 months into his job as the deputy director of the FBI, he was blown away with what he saw. And he said, there is no way that we can run a republic like this. Guys, we've been so out of control, and the half has not been told. This is why I chose this title. The half has not been told. Stick with me. We're going to frame some things. He said, we cannot run a republic like this. This hints at shocking deep state corruption that we know has been going on a long time, and it speaks to the need to keep all of the Trump administration covered in prayer, asking God to give them wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. I pray the Ephesians, and my spiritual truth is to pray, and I pray this over you all. And I pray it definitely over him every day, and his family and his cabinet. I pray it over you. If you look at it, this has been prayed over you. The Ephesians and the Colossians prayer, that the eyes of our understanding are enlightened, and we know the hope of God's calling for every area of our lives. We're filled with wisdom, knowledge, and spiritual understanding. that we would know the truth and the hope of God's calling, that we have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. What we want them to have is to have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to do their jobs as it relates to this nation. Bongino stated, it's not about my truth or your truth. It is about the truth. It amazes me about how people go on and on and on about how no one's been arrested about anything that's gone on in the past, but they have. We've covered that a few weeks ago. Regarding arrests connected to what Doja discovered. So the memes are wrong. I've seen the memes. They're wrong. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino gave a chilling warning about corruption that's so disturbing that it changed him forever. Those were his words. Pray over Dan. Pray over the FBI, because previously the FBI, the DOJ was weaponized. It was weaponized against Donald Trump. It was weaponized, and that's coming out. The whole Russian hoax thing, which Obama led, all that's coming out, guys. Pray. It is what it is. I wish he had been what everybody thought he was going to be. You getting ready to get a rude awakening, a lot of you. Oh, yeah. God bless you. I love you. But you getting ready to get a rude awakening. Bongino gave a chilling warning about corruption so disturbing that it changed him forever, guys. Pray for him and our leaders. The half hasn't been told yet. Just days after the Trump administration and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard accused former President Barack Obama of participating in a years-long coup. The deputy director said he and FBI Director Kash Patel plan to expose shocking corruption in law enforcement and intelligence operations. Guys, do you think that systemically they have to make sure they have their ducks all lined up in a row? This is why they've been bucking, guys. The covers have been snatched off. Bongino has stated, I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. The half has not been told. Pray for our leaders in this country. Bongino reports that during his short time with the FBI, he said this at about 5 months of being in. He said that he has repeatedly stated that a lot is going on behind the scenes. I know what that's like. When you've worked in certain spheres and operations and dealings, you better make sure everything lines up with policies, procedures, and guidelines and systemic operations. You just can't go willy-nilly. This is at the top of the tier of making sure everything's lined up right. He's repeatedly stated that a lot is going on behind the scene, even if it is not immediately visible to the public. Bongino added that he and Patel, he said they're committed to stamping out public corruption and the political weaponization of both law enforcement and intelligence operations. Additionally, saying that what he has learned during his time with the federal agency has completely changed his outlook so much that he cannot unlearn what he now knows. These men need us covering them in prayer. I'm going to keep saying that the effectual, fervent prayer of the righteous avails much. Who are the righteous? And people say, well, y'all think y'all right. The righteous means right standing with God. That means I'm going to stay before him. Our righteousness in and of ourselves is as filthy rags. But when I come based upon what God did for me through Jesus, I'm standing and he sees him. He said, oh, she's covered by the blood. She's covered. Listen, see, we got authority, and the enemy does not want us to know the authority that we have. Oh, yeah. But a lot of us know. So we keep them covered in prayer. We lift them up. We care about them. We care about this country. I don't give 2 cents about these political parties, because some people are jacked up on both sides, every side of the aisle. They are. And the ones that are not doing the right thing, get rid of all of them. Hold them all accountable. But I'm going to tell you what, y'all know, based upon 12 of the last 16 years, that there were some underhanded, sinister things done through the Obama, Biden, Harris cabal, and it's coming out. I remember no one knew that people were being paroled out of prison in Haiti, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. And then when Donald Trump said that in the presidential debate with Kamala Harris, she just went looking like he's crazy. Wouldn't even take responsibility for it. And she knew it was going on. Lying, deceptive, deceitful people. Here's what Bongino further stated. What I have learned in the course of our properly predicated and necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me down to my core. The half hadn't been told. We cannot run a republic like this. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. This ties in with what I would experience as we watch the insidious process unfolding as jurisdicted by the Obama, Biden, Harris cabal. It's what Bongino said is like a cryptic message, but if you got discernment, you know. See, we knew, there are many of us we knew before Bongino even came on us, and we knew what was going on. I would get downloads. I would see people sitting at tables, meetings. I just knew God will speak to our hearts. Why? He wants us to pray. He wants us to intercede. It's clear that they're dealing with some heavy things, guys. And I believe it's all going to come out. The White House has been dealing with the fallout of the Jeffrey Epstein files and is now running into roadblocks in the form of a federal judge. We'll see how that all works out. I'll just say this to those who think Donald Trump was involved in the nefarious activities that went on in that whole Epstein sphere. If that was the case, don't you think that the Obama, Biden, Harris cabal would have thrown that book at Trump as well? Come on. Meanwhile, the Russian dossier hoax is alive and well, and the media is still trying to run cover for those who've been seemingly implicated in a trove of emails and directives issued during the Obama administration regarding him. The half hasn't been told, guys. In the midst of this whirlwind of events, Deputy Director Bongino is insisting that any corruption be dealt with properly and in accordance with the law. Imagine the law, that thing that had been overlooked. Yeah, that thing that had been violated. That takes time. Some folks need to just settle down as they think nothing's being done and no one's being held accountable. I see people popping on doing their lives and going on and on. Sit down, baby. Relax. Pray. Get a cup of tea. Get a cup of coffee. Pray. 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 That the eyes of Bongino and Patel and all of their understanding, President Trump, all of them, that the eyes of their understanding is enlightened, that they know the hope of God's calling, and he leads, guides, and directs them into all truth. We're going to conduct righteous and proper investigations by the book and in accordance with the law. That's what they said. We're going to get the answers we all deserve, they said. According to Bongino, he has clearly stated that, as with any investigation, he cannot predict where exactly it's going to land. But he says, I can promise you this. He said, I promise you an honest and dignified effort at truth, Not my truth or your truth, but the truth. God bless America. God bless America as we pursue the truth. And all those who defend her. Dan Bongino is a very passionate person, and he lets his true feelings come through. For myself, I see this as a plus, my fellow Americans and my brothers and sisters. I would rather hear the truth from someone like Dan Bongino than all the career politicians in the country. He is not just trying to hold on to his position like they are by telling us what we want to hear. Some of these people are so ungrateful and impatient. No matter what he says or what good comes out, they come up with negative comments related to the president. It's pretty disgusting at times. If you are a believer, you should be praying daily for everyone connected with President Trump to be protected by God's warring angels. He shall give his angels charge over him to keep him in all his ways. I pray the 91st Psalm over all of us, over him, his cabinet, this whole country. I have a prayer group. I started the Jamal Roberts prayer group. Come and join. We got over 10,000 people praying for the children and youth and the young people of America. Jamal Roberts and his girls. And I'm praying for us. I'm praying that God protects us with his warring angels every hour of the day. There's warfare prayer. Yeah. If you're not sure how to do warfare prayer, read the Psalm 91. Oh yeah, every day. That's part of my routine. We're living in serious times, and we had better fasten our seatbelts, guys. Listen to the news conferences for yourself. I don't listen to the news. Not depending on the mainstream media to tell you what's going on. That's what's going on with a lot of people. And why they're so offended, because they listen to the lying, manipulative, deceptive mainstream media, which is an extension of the liberal left. It's propaganda. Just like what Hitler had his minister of propaganda, Joseph Goebbels, doing. It's no different. Depending on the mainstream media to tell you what's going on is a mistake. Get involved spiritually and stop complaining about those like Dan Bongino, Kosh Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and Pam Bondi, who are out there on the front lines. Negativity breeds negativity. Take it all to God in prayer. Listen, no earthly solutions will fix this alone. Honorable attempts are very worthy and deserve our deepest respect. Yes, they do. But long-term change will require spiritual intervention as well. Too many, unfortunately, on both sides think they're wise and more moral and superior to us little people, the peons. The mighty will fall. A lot of them going to fall. It's coming. Continue to fight the good fight of faith, my fellow Americans and my brothers and sisters, and support those that can fight for our republic. As ugly as some of history has gone, God was involved. He was involved. Yeah. He was involved in the founding of this nation. He was involved in me being born here instead of being born in the Congo, where my ancestors are from. My great-grandmother was born a slave in Virginia. She ended up in North Carolina, in Milton, North Carolina. I'm glad I was born over here. God has been involved with that, and he will resolve this mess because he's got the final say. You know what? I read the end of the book. He is yet allowing the enemy of our souls to what looks like win some battles. Evidence against the evildoers is going to come out, though. But we know the ultimate outcome. One future day, all will be revealed, and the sicknesses that pervades, they will be no more. There will be no more. There There will be a great and dreadful day for others indeed. Back in the early 2000s, I used to tell everybody the corruption in Washington, D.C. goes further and wider and deeper than anybody could even fathom. I know I'm right. Nobody wanted to believe me back then. Everybody told me I was crazy. I had people back home, they just like, you have lost your mind. You have lost your ever-loving mind. I didn't know. They kept saying, you don't know what you're talking about. You have forsaken your people. Black Americans, they would tell them, you've forsaken your people. You and your white friends. That's what I was told. Well, I guess I'm not so crazy now, am I? Because the very things that I said, they have come to pass. Unfortunately, many people turn a blind eye, and I love and respect the ones that were blasting me. I had public smear campaigns done on me, and I said, oh God, this is the part where you would talk about pray for those who despitefully use you and smear your name. I had to step up to the plate, up to a higher calling. Unfortunately, many people turn a blind eye out of fear. But at some point, you must face your fear, whether looking at it or looking away from it. That evil is still coming straight at you, and it's coming for your children and your grandchildren. It's wanting to accost their minds. That's what's been going on with these agendas. You can't tell me it's God's will for those kindergartners in our public schools, and we were paying for it, to be taught what to do with their hands related to their body, and being told there's no such thing as doing that too much. And then when they got in middle school, it graduated to the hand being closed, made into a fist, and what they could do with it to somebody else's body. Guys, that stuff's from the pit of hell. While their standardized testing scores were plummeting, and you got black males, the reading and math scores are horrendous. They're not even reading at a middle school level. The majority of them in this country. That's not acceptable. I was a teacher, a school psychologist. I taught kids how to read. It's unacceptable, but it's pitiful. But that's what's happened as a result of these paths that we've taken. Many people turn a blind eye out of fear, but at some point you got to face these fears. Looking at it or looking away from it, that evil is coming for those kids. I'm an advocate for that. You know how I am about these children. Grown people can do what they want to do with these kids. I'm going to stand up for them. That evil is coming straight at these kids and coming at us. Even if you don't see it or don't want to see it, it sees you and it's coming straight for you. That's spiritual warfare that we all get confronted with, but we fight the good fight of faith. We have been in a battle for our country, guys. By definition, our nation is a republic, which is a representative form of government that is ruled according to a charter or constitution. And a democracy is a government that is ruled according to the will of the majority. That's why we vote. This is why they were trying to hijack votes, cheating. We have both dynamics going on as a state in which supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives. They work for us. And which has been elected or nominated. We nominate a president rather than a monarch. With all of these dynamics going on, it provokes a lot of thought, and it leads us into considering how are we to operate? How are we to set things up? We hear the term rule of law over and over again, but does it apply? Is it for some and not for others? What will we see unfold if we've got rule of law? Let's consider that from a clinical perspective. Rule of law and order. Why do we need it? A situation in which laws are obeyed and people behave in an organized and peaceful way. Why would that be needed? Why did the crime rates in Washington, D.C. Why did it decrease significantly when the National Guard was brought in? The rule of law is a durable system of laws, institutions, norms, and community commitment that delivers certain principles. And there are 4 universal principles. Guess what they are? Accountability, just law, open government, and accessible and impartial justice. Yeah. That's order. That's safety. That's predictability. Not all this chaos that had been perpetrated upon us. Oh, yeah. Can you see how the enemy is just trying to run roughshod over us and why? The rule of law is a principle of governance where all individuals and institutions, including the government, are accountable to and governed by laws that are publicly known. We know what they are. Equally enforced and independently adjudicated. It emphasizes that no one is above the law and that the law should be applied fairly and consistently to all. Key aspects include the supremacy of the law, equally before the law, and the protection of fundamental rights. Do you see how God is a God of order, guys? He's a God of order. He's a God of order. And all this speaks to the order. All this was his idea. What about accountability? The rule of law ensures that everyone, from citizens to government officials, is accountable under the law. But we've had these different tiers operating. Oh, yeah, we have. What about just laws? Laws should be clear, publicized, stable, and applied without discrimination. So here's the question. Has there been any discrimination as it relates to laws being applied to all Americans? All. The half hadn't been told, guys, but it will be. And we're looking at the rule of law. How does it fit in? What about open government? Open government, the processes of lawmaking and enforcement should be transparent. It's open and accessible to the public. We know. We can go look at the books. This is how we do it in America. It used to be that way. Then it just got ignored and preferential treatment and, hey, it was a mess. Then there's the separation of powers as it relates to the rule of law. What is that about? The rule of law often involves a system of checks and balances, including the separation of powers among different branches of government to prevent what? The concentration of power and potential abuse. Did we see abuses going on? Oh, yes. It was rampant. Then there's something called fundamental rights. We're talking about rule of law. We're talking about our country. The rule of law is intrinsically linked to the protection of fundamental human rights and freedoms. That's why we have it. It brings order. It prevents chaos. Chaos has been ruling in Chicago. Chaos was ruling in Washington, D.C. And Chicago had a whole different presentation. I love the city. I love to talk to those guys that I saw saying all that smack, saying all that stuff. I love working with people like that. Those are the kind of people I would end up being their therapists in mental health settings. Oh, yeah, because they came in for crisis intervention and they were looking at me eyeball to eyeball. I loved it. They changed. We went in together. I loved it. It was a privilege and honor. Oh, my goodness. They were hard cutthroat. But boy, when we worked together, they became leaders. They were emboldened and empowered in the right way. Then, also, with the rule of law, independent judiciary. What's that about? An independent and impartial judiciary is essential for ensuring the fair application and interpretation of the law. Guys, we were so off base, out of control. Then there's something called supremacy of law. The law is the ultimate authority. This is why the Constitution is the law of the land. This is why President Trump is winning. He comes back, that's why we're going to sue him. Okay, wasting time because it's going to get before the Supreme Court. The Constitution says certain things. The supremacy of the law. The law is the ultimate authority, and all other institutions are subject to it. The rule of law is not merely a legal concept, but a cornerstone of a just, stable, and prosperous society. It fosters predictability, fairness, and accountability, allowing citizens to trust and participate in their legal system. They know how it's set up. That's how it's supposed to be. Listen to the truth of the power of those words, guys. Predictability, fairness, and accountability. Everyone is assured the right of a fair trial. That makes for a powerful and orderly America. That is the total opposite of what the Obama, Biden, Harris cabal was doing. My fellow Americans and my brothers and sisters, there are those who do not want us to have predictability, fairness, and accountability. They don't want it. You know why? Because it's orderly and it's in accordance to how God set this country up. We're not perfect, but when this thing runs like it's supposed to, it's orderly and it's fair and it's decent. Everything is supposed to be done decent and in order. We were so out of control. What have we looked at tonight? The half hadn't been told, but a lot will be, a lot more will be. And our clinical perspective was exploring the rule of law. Listen, this has been a wonderful, wonderful journey that we've been on, because we have been going somewhere and it's expecting us when we get there, and we're just exploring things together, guys, dissecting, framing, thinking out loud, all these dynamics as it relates to we the people. Listen, keep coming back. I appreciate you. I pray for you. I love you guys. I'm praying for you and your families. I mean, I'm interceding for us. I'm interceding for this nation. And I believe God is hearing us and answering our prayers. Listen, thank you for joining us. We the people on our podcast. This is our podcast, yes. As we come together, thank you for your comments. Thank you for your support. As we continue to go together from destruction to dignity, clinical perspective, strategy, skills, tools, structure, clinical perspective, spiritual truths, as we keep uniting, praying for this nation as we go together, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Guys, I appreciate you. I'll see you next week. Good night.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Janice's mission is to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention when needed. As a reminder, this show is not therapy, but for educational purposes only. For more information, check out JanicePons.com or follow her on social media.
We are one power, strength is ours, liberty, been set free, education, affirmation, dedication, information, revelation.